My parents demanded I give my welcome party dress to my sister, who always destroys my things. Am I the asshole for finally telling the truth? I, 22F, severely need help about a matter involving my family, notably my sister Susan, 24F. I've been a long-time lurker, but recent circumstances have compelled me to finally share my tale. Please bear with me as this may be a bit long. I'm actually shivering as I type this, partially out of rage and partly out of dread of what will happen if they find out I'm asking for help. I recently graduated from college and got my dream job at a top technology business. Everything was going well. I worked hard in college, maintaining a 3.9 GPA with a partial scholarship, and securing this position after numerous rounds of competitive interviews. The organization is well known for its positive work environment and ample prospects for advancement. After years of walking on eggshells at home, I was truly pleased to begin my working life. The welcome reception for new staff is tomorrow evening. It's a formal function where new employees can meet top management and team leaders. Several VIPs will be there, and it is recognized to be an important networking event that can impact your future career path inside the organization. I worked part-time for months and saved up enough money to buy appropriate attire. It is not ostentatious, but rather professional and stylish. It cost me $400, which equates to numerous hours of tutoring and weekend shifts at a nearby cafe. My parents, both 45, didn't contribute anything, which was not surprising given their history of preferring my sister. My sister Susan has always been the golden child. She is currently unemployed after failing to complete college twice. She spends the majority of her time partying and posting on social media, while our parents cover her expenses without question. They've spent thousands on her shopping sprees, expensive devices, and even a car, which she crashed within 3 months. Meanwhile, since high school, I've had to work part-time jobs to cover basic expenses such as school supplies and clothing. The inequality in treatment began early. When I was 5, my aunt gave me a tiny art set for Christmas. Susan threw a violent rage, so my parents took it away and handed it to her, despite the fact that she had previously received other expensive gifts. They told me I needed to learn to share, that Susan was more sensitive. This set the tone for our entire life. Growing up, Susan would frequently throw temper tantrums if I received something pleasant. When I was 12, I won a science competition at school. Instead of celebrating, Susan had a meltdown because she wasn't getting enough attention. What is my parents' solution? They took away my prize and certificate to avoid causing Susan concern. Susan couldn't stand seeing me on stage, so they forced me to miss the award ceremony. This pattern persisted throughout my life. Any accomplishment or enjoyment of mine was viewed as a danger to Susan's well-being. As we became older, the situation worsened. Susan had a habit of removing my belongings without permission. Clothes, books, electronics, nothing was off limits. If I protested, my parents would chastise me for being selfish and insensitive to my sister's sentiments. They would remark things like, "Susan is sensitive and requires additional support. You're stronger, so you must compromise." When I acquired my first smartphone at 16, which I paid for my tutoring money, Susan demanded it because hers was outdated, despite the fact that it was only 6 months old. My folks made me swap phones with her. There were numerous occurrences like this. Susan would physically assault me if she didn't get her way. She once pushed me down the stairs when I refused to allow her to use my laptop for a social media broadcast. I sprained my ankle, but my parents did not take me to the hospital. Instead, they instructed me to remain in my room and not provoke Susan further. Another time, Mom slapped me in the face at a family gathering because I was getting more compliments on my academic achievements. My parents called me aside and chastised me for showing off and making Susan unhappy. The emotional assault was far more severe than the physical. Susan would frequently tell me that I was unwanted and that our parents had me solely to give her a sibling. She made fun of my appearance, circulated rumors about me at school, and even ruined my friendships. When I was 15, I had my first boyfriend. Susan claimed I was cheating on him. I wasn't, and even showed him modified screenshots of phony chats. He broke up with me, and when I confronted Susan, she simply laughed. Our parents? They say I should never have begun dating since it made Susan lonely. Throughout all of this, I learned to keep my head down and concentrate on my schoolwork. My dream of financial independence kept me going during the toughest moments. I stopped expecting support or validation from my family. I even intended to move out as soon as I started earning money, hoping to finally be free of this toxic environment. I immersed myself in schoolwork and extracurricular activities, doing everything I could to avoid being at home. During college, I believed things would improve because I was living in the dorms, but Susan would frequently drop up unexpectedly, demand money or clothes, and throw fits if I refused. My parents would call and chastise me for neglecting my sister, despite the fact that she was meant to be the older sibling. They even tried to force me to quit out after Susan failed her classes for the second time, stating that it was unfair for me to complete my education while she couldn't. But yesterday, everything came to a head. Susan and our parents stormed into my room 1 hour before I was supposed to try on my dress for final changes. She demanded that I dress for her next job interview. When I declined, she screamed about how I was arrogant for having a job before her, how I was purposefully attempting to make her appear bad, and how I'd always been a selfish, attention-seeking brat. Our parents, obviously, supported her. "Your sister needs this more than you," Mom remarked, using the guilt-tripping tone I've come to despise. "She has interviews scheduled, and this garment would greatly increase her confidence. You can wear something else to the celebration. Why are you always so difficult?" I tried to explain how important this event was to my career, how I had saved for months to buy the outfit, and how this was my last chance to make a good first impression at my new job. But Dad cut me off, his face flushed with rage. "Stop being so difficult," he snapped. "You understand how difficult this time has been for Susan. Why do you always have to make it about yourself? Can't you think about your sister's emotions for once?" What is the worst part? Susan had previously returned her own beautiful dress, purchased by our parents for $2,000, and used the money to buy makeup and a new iPhone cover. She didn't even have any actual interviews arranged. She only wanted my dress because it was mine. Later, I overheard her on the phone with a friend, joking about how she was going to take care of her sister's attitude issues. What distinguishes this situation from prior ones is that my grandmother, 71F, expects images from the welcome celebration. She's always been more sensible than my parents, but living in another state means she's not as familiar with our family dynamics. She explicitly requested that I send her images of my clothing, expressing her pride that I had landed such a good position right out of college. She even considered framing the photo for her homeroom. I am currently locked in my room, trying to figure out what to do. My hands are trembling while I type this. My sister is still having a fit outside, yelling that I am ruining her life and that she will make me regret being born. I can hear her hammering on my door and threatening to smash it down. My parents are texting me to stop being selfish and to think about family harmony. They're threatening to ground me, yes, at 22, and confiscate my phone if I don't cooperate. Should I just give in again to maintain the peace? I am aware that if I do not comply, they may physically compel me to hand over the dress, or Susan may trash it out of spite, as she has done with my belongings in the past. But I'm so tired of being the family's scapegoat. This welcoming celebration meant the world to me. It's my first step toward independence, a chance to begin establishing a life free of their destructive influence. I can't help but worry if telling my grandmother the truth about what's going on will make a difference. She's always been nice to me, but my parents have taught me that contacting relatives would bring shame to the family and that no one would believe me anyhow. They have spent years telling me that their treatment is normal and that I am to blame for not being more flexible. I am lost and unsure what to do. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Am I irrational in wanting to keep my own outfit, which I purchased with my own money? How do I approach this scenario without causing further controversy, but also without giving up something that is really important to me? I feel like I'm having a panic attack just thinking about approaching them. The welcoming celebration is tomorrow evening, so I have to make a decision fast. I've worked so hard to get here, and it's upsetting that my accomplishment is being overshadowed by my sister's demands and my parents' supporting conduct. The idea of showing up in something inappropriate and perhaps harming my professional reputation is worrisome. But so is the prospect of another violent encounter with Susan. Thank you for reading this far. I've never told anyone the whole amount of what goes on in our family, so writing it all down seems both terrifying and liberating. I keep second-guessing myself, wondering if I'm overreacting or if I'm insane for believing this isn't typical. Right now, any advice or assistance would be greatly appreciated. Update 1. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone who left positive comments on my first post. A lot has transpired in the past 24 hours, and everything has altered. Yesterday, after I posted, my grandmother called to inquire about the welcome celebration and pictures. When I started making excuses, she realized something was wrong. She insisted on bringing me up for lunch today, claiming to require assistance with grocery shopping. My parents couldn't turn her down without raising suspicions. At a quiet cafe away from home, my grandma held my hands and whispered, "Now, tell me everything." Her gentle tone smashed through all of my barricades. For the first time, I revealed the entire truth about our family dynamics. I told her how Susan ruined my school projects, shredded my college prep books, and bleached my prom outfit. I revealed years of secrets that I had kept buried out of fear and shame. My grandma listened without interrupting, but I could see her hands trembling in rage. When I concluded, she confessed that she and other relatives had suspected difficulties for years but had been unable to prove them because my parents always presented a perfect family picture at gatherings. Right there at the cafe, Mother began calling family members, including my aunts, uncles, and family acquaintances. As she made these calls, my phone started vibrating nonstop with texts from my family. My mother sent more anxious texts. "How can you tell lies about our family after everything we've done for you? You're making your sister cry again." Susan's communications began with a guilt trip. "I cannot believe you would do this to me. You know how sensitive I am." They swiftly moved to threats. "You better tell Grandma you lied, or I'll make you regret it. Remember your prom dress. This will be worse." Dad joined in. "Your mother is having a breakdown because of you. Come home right now and mend the mess you've made." But this time, their threats had a different effect on me. Each message proved what I had told my granny. While they were making these threats, my grandma showed me scores of encouraging texts from family members who were finally realizing the truth. The family has responded overwhelmingly. My aunt apologized for believing Susan's falsehoods about how cruel I was to her. My uncle promised to help me find an apartment close to my workplace. Another aunt recommended therapy and even offered to cover the fees. My grandmother made it clear that she will not allow them to scare me longer. She contacted her lawyer and purchased me a new outfit for the welcome celebration, which is now safely stored at my aunt's house. Even family friends have begun to share their observations of Susan's troubling behavior at gatherings, including a child psychologist who had observed warning flags years ago. I am writing this from my aunt's place. My parents are still sending me texts threatening to cut me off financially, which is immaterial because I support myself, and telling everyone what a bad daughter I am. Susan's latest threat was to ruin my job, but it no longer scares me. For the first time, I am not facing their assault alone. Tomorrow, I'll go to the welcome reception in my new dress, with my aunt driving me there for safety. My grandma instructed me to chronicle everything from now on, including Susan's threats. Thank you, Reddit, for letting me see that what I've normalized isn't typical at all. I'll post another update when I can. Update 2. I never anticipated things to escalate so soon following my last update. I'm writing this from my grandmother's house, with a broken nose and confused feelings about what's transpired. The day following my welcome celebration, my grandmother surprised me with a new MacBook for work. She had it transported to my aunt's place first, knowing Susan's track record with my belongings. When I returned home to pack some clothing, I assumed my parents and Susan would be gone. I was mistaken. Susan waited in my room. She'd learned about the laptop via social media, where my cousin had posted a congratulations message about my new job and mentioned the gift. What occurred next still seems strange. "So you're taking bribes from Grandma now?" Susan sat on my bed, browsing through her phone, her voice strangely quiet. "Do you think you can turn the entire family against us?" I tried to hastily get some clothing and leave, but she was blocking the door. "Do you remember when we were kids and Mom always said that sharing is caring?" She smiled, but her eyes remained icy. "Grandma also needs to learn that lesson. Hand over the laptop." When I declined, stating that I needed it for my new job, she pulled my hair and banged my face against the doorframe. I heard a crack and felt warm blood rush out of my nose. The agony was excruciating, but what hurt worse was hearing my parents' reaction. When they heard the ruckus, they came upstairs, but instead of assisting me, Mom began yelling at me for provoking Susan. Dad simply stood there, saying I should have known better than to flaunt my new gift in front of my sister. Fortunately, my aunt insisted on waiting outside in her car. When she heard the shouting, she entered and discovered me bleeding. What followed was like a scene from a movie. My aunt phoned both the police and my grandmother. Within an hour, my grandma came, along with 2 additional aunts and an uncle. The cops gathered accounts and photos of my injuries. Susan kept changing her tale, first saying it was an accident, then that I had assaulted her first, and ultimately breaking down and yelling that I deserved it for stealing her family. The most shocking development was not the police involvement, but the community response. While I was in the hospital getting my nose treated, word went throughout our extended family and social networks. My parents' carefully cultivated picture of the ideal family broke totally. Their country club membership was quietly canceled. Mom's club barred her from their weekly sessions. Dad's golf mates were suddenly too busy to play. Susan's few remaining acquaintances began relaying anecdotes about her violent outbursts that they had witnessed over time. My parents suffered greatly from social isolation. They'd spent years promoting their image as ideal parents with 2 daughters, the sensitive artist Susan and the difficult one, me. Everyone now knows the truth, and they are unable to handle it. They've been calling relatives nonstop in an effort to minimize the harm. Their latest claim is that I'm having a mental breakdown and fabricating stories about Susan. But nobody believes it anymore, especially after the police report. Susan's attitude to the social ramifications has been especially worrying. She set up several social media identities to harass me and disseminate misinformation about our family situation. She even came up to my office, attempting to convince my new coworkers that I am unstable. Fortunately, my manager was aware of the issue through my uncle, who works in human resources, and had security take her away. My grandmother's lawyer assisted me in filing for a restraining order against Susan. The proof was overwhelming: years of documented events, witness accounts from family and friends, and now police photos of my injuries. I'm currently residing at my grandmother's house, and the difference with my previous existence is startling. Nobody here advises me to stop provoking my sister. Nobody insists that I give up my possessions in order to keep the peace. I can leave my laptop on my desk without worry of it disappearing. My extended family's support continues to astound me. Cousins I haven't spoken with in years have reached out to share their impressions about Susan's behavior at family gatherings. My aunt's acquaintance, a therapist, helped me comprehend that what I was going through was continuous abuse enabled by my parents. Meanwhile, my parents' social circle is diminishing. Their neighbors no longer stop and speak. Mom's social media posts about praying for her troubled daughters are received with silence or harsh criticism. Dad's business associates have begun to distance themselves, concerned about his judgment after learning how he handled the family problem. Susan's work prospects, which were previously poor, have become virtually non-existent. In our society, word spreads quickly, and her violent outburst is now widely known. She blames me for wrecking her life, but more people recognize her threats for what they are. I am still absorbing all that has transpired. My nose will heal, but witnessing my parents' carefully constructed facade disintegrate has been both satisfying and heartbreaking. They are dealing with the natural consequences of their decisions, and no amount of trickery will help them this time. I'll provide another update as I have more information to offer. Thank you everybody for your encouragement. It helped me hold firm when Susan requested the laptop, even though the repercussions were unpleasant. Sometimes things have to get worse before they can improve. Update number 3. Thank you for your support on my prior updates. It's been a hectic few days, and I wanted to highlight some important developments. My healing is progressing well. The swelling in my nose has subsided, but the bruise appears worse. The doctor thinks there will be no permanent harm, which is reassuring given my future work presentations. Living at my grandmother's house has become permanent, and the contrast with my previous existence is stark. This morning, I unintentionally spilled a coffee mug and found myself flinching, expecting screams and punishment. Instead, I received my grandmother's polite concern and assistance cleaning up. The community's response has been incredible. Mom's social media presence collapsed when a prayer request post about her troubled daughters backfired. Susan's previous students swarmed the comments section with their own accounts of her bullying and violence. Dad's business has suffered a big blow. Several long-term clients have gone, and his partners convened an emergency meeting to evaluate his situation after discovering his participation in facilitating Susan's actions. They are especially concerned about his judgment in leadership roles. Susan has been on a downward spiral since the restraining order. She set up other phony profiles to harass me and my supporters, but unintentionally posted from her main account, providing additional proof for the court case. My aunt made a stunning revelation. My parents had frequently refused to allow Susan to get psychological care when she was younger. They were more concerned with preserving their ideal family image than with resolving the real challenges. My parents' attempts to regain control backfired spectacularly. Their family meal to clear the air was only attended by 2 distant relatives. Mom's best friend publicly unfriended her after viewing the police report images. Dad was asked to step down from church leadership, and Mom's gardening group decided to continue without her. The most affirming moment occurred when my high school counselor contacted me, apologizing for not doing more when she recognized indicators of abuse years ago. My parents had persuaded her that my reclusive conduct was teenage rebellion, and Susan's violence was artistic temperament. My workplace has been quite supportive following Susan's attempt to make trouble. My manager added additional security precautions, and my coworkers have been understanding of my predicament. My uncle published a public post yesterday, documenting years of disturbing behavior he had witnessed. His post went viral in our neighborhood, resulting in additional social ramifications. My parents' reputation in the area has shattered. Mom was ousted from the homeowners association board, and they can't go shopping without being followed by murmurs and glances. Susan's victim narrative is failing. She had a meltdown at our aunt's church when someone mentioned my name, confirming what everyone had heard about her conduct. I'm still adjusting to living without constant fear. My grandma enrolled me in therapy, which has helped me appreciate how unusual my home life was. Our lawyer's response to my parents' latest cease and desist letter regarding spreading falsehoods included police report images and witness statements. The help from this community has been tremendous. You made me realize that I wasn't insane for believing my situation was unusual. I'll publish a final update after everything has settled down, but for now, I'm focusing on recuperating and starting a new life. It's incredible how much energy you have when you're not always walking on eggshells. Update number 4. It has been 6 months since my previous update, and I believe it is finally time to conclude this chapter of my life. Thank you to everyone who has followed my journey and provided support. I'm presently prospering in my profession, having recently received my first promotion for leading a successful project. My team leader applauded my attention to detail and calm attitude to crisis management, skills I honed while navigating my family's chaos for years. My personal life has changed completely. I've moved into my own place, but I still see my grandmother on a daily basis. The first night in my new place, I realized I could put my possessions anywhere without fear of being stolen or destroyed. Simple things, such as having my own space and making decisions without concern, feel like valuable gifts. Susan was recently diagnosed with a number of mental health issues after being compelled to undergo evaluation as part of an anger management program. She is currently in a specialist treatment facility, not by choice, but as a condition of her probation following another violent event that did not involve me. My parents have faced serious penalties. Dad's firm encouraged him to retire early after big clients expressed worries about his judgment. Mom has become a social outcast in their neighborhood. Their attempts to join a new religious congregation were thwarted when members of their previous church revealed their background. They're selling their home and moving to another state for a fresh start, but their reputation precedes them in various areas they've investigated. The continual chilly shoulders and whispered remarks became too much for them. The most unexpected development has been the ripple effect among our extended family. My tale inspired 2 cousins to speak out about their own experiences with family abuse. It's as if breaking the veil of silence has enabled others to finally recognize their own hardships. Work has become my haven. I just created a support system for new employees, and my manager applauded my unique perspective on building friendly settings. The irony is not lost on me that my previous difficulties have become a source of professional strength. My parents made one more attempt at reconciliation last month, sending a beautifully worded letter through their new lawyer recommending family therapy. My grandmother's lawyer simply said, "All communication must go through legal channels, and I am not interested in reconciliation." The greatest rewarding shift has been in my interactions with my extended relatives. Sunday dinners at my grandmother's place have become a ritual, full of real laughter and joy. My aunts and uncles tell me things from my childhood that my parents twisted or kept buried, allowing me to regain some of my heritage. I've begun mentoring at a local youth center, working with teenagers from challenging home backgrounds. One girl just informed me that my tale inspired her to come up about her own sister's abuse. My grandma has been my biggest supporter, demonstrating what genuine family love looks like, unconditional but with appropriate boundaries. Susan's restraining order is now permanent, and she is legally prohibited from approaching my employment or apartment. The community's response has served as a lesson in social fairness. My parents and Susan faced no legal consequences other than the restraining order, but the social isolation and loss of status were more effective than any court sentence. I'm finally creating the life I've always wanted but never thought possible. I have a successful career, a supportive social circle, and, most importantly, peace of mind. I no longer react to sudden noises or apologize for my existence. This will be my last update. To anyone in a similar situation, it is never too late to speak up and reclaim their life. Sometimes the most difficult step is believing you deserve better. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.